Have you ever wondered why the world seems to have a strange fascination with disappointing the most hopeful people? Why those who give the most love often experience the deepest wounds? It's a brutal, familiar pattern. On one side, there is a heart that gives itself endlessly, a heart that writes the hopeful message, plans the beautiful moment, makes the silent sacrifice, believing that goodness will be met with goodness. And on the other side, there is the silence, the read receipt with no reply, the effort that goes unseen, the unmet expectation that settles like a stone in your chest, making it hard to breathe. Let me be clear, we are not watching a documentary about other people. This is the story of your life, the story of those nights you stared at a screen, asking yourself, what did I do wrong? The story of that moment you poured your entire soul out for someone and in return received nothing but cold, empty space. This painful cycle is not an accident. It has a cause. And today, we are here to uncover a shocking truth, a secret that is both brutal in its honesty and unexpectedly liberating. This is the Stoics' brutal secret to never, and I mean never, being disappointed again. This wisdom doesn't come from the fleeting thoughts of our modern age. Its roots run deep into history, into the heart of the Roman Empire. It comes from the minds of emperors, playwrights, and even slaves, who were all searching for the same thing, an inner fortress against the storms of life, the Stoic philosophers. One of their greatest, Seneca, wrote 2,000 years ago, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." But what exactly is this secret? How could the Stoics' invincible strength lie in something that sounds so cold, so harsh? How can anyone live without hope and expectation? Isn't that a recipe for a lonely, barren life? The answer is no. It is about understanding a fundamental error, an error we all make every single day, an error we have mistaken for virtue, for love, but which is in fact the very seed of all our suffering. And until we understand its root, we are doomed to repeat this cycle. So, let's go deeper. What is this fatal mistake that we call a virtue? That fatal mistake we call a virtue is the deep, toxic belief that our goodness creates an unwritten contract with the world. It's that quiet voice in the back of our minds, the one that whispers, "Because I sacrificed, they must be grateful. Because I was honest, they must not lie to me. Because I worked hard, the world must reward me with success." This program was installed in us from childhood. We were taught that if we were a good boy or a good girl, we would get a reward. If we did our homework, we would get praise. We were raised in a system of behavioral cause and effect, and now we expect the entire universe to operate on that same simple logic. And here, the shocking truth reveals itself. There is no contract. The universe owes you nothing for your kindness, for your unconditional love, for your sleepless nights. This expectation, this assumption of a cosmic ledger where your good deeds are tallied, is the single greatest lie we tell ourselves. Every expectation is an invisible hook that you forge with your own hands attached to your soul and then give the other end to someone else. You give them the power to pull you in any direction they please with a single action, a word, or even their silence. Or worse, to leave you wounded and bleeding on the ground. You are living in a prison you built yourself with the bricks of hope. To explain why we do this, the Stoics point to a fundamental weakness in human nature. We are terrified of taking full responsibility for our own inner peace. So we outsource it. We place our happiness in the hands of others, hoping they will care for it better than we can. It's an escape from power and from responsibility. We would rather be the victim of an unjust world than the architect of a powerful soul. And this mechanism is at play in every moment of our lives. At work, you help the new colleague, spending hours teaching them the ropes. Your unwritten contract is, I helped you, so you must be loyal. But one day you watch them present your idea as their own and get the promotion. Your pain isn't just from their immorality, it's from the collapse of that imaginary contract. You plan the perfect birthday for your partner, not just out of love, but with the secret expectation that they will finally see your devotion and change their behavior. When the party is over and nothing is changed, the silence is more deafening than 1,000 screams. You are the therapist friend of the group, always available to listen to everyone else's problems. But the day you break down and need a shoulder to cry on, your phone remains silent. You aren't suffering from your loneliness. You're suffering from the invalidation of the contract that said, I was there for you, so you must be there for me. And so we arrive at the ultimate cost. The ultimate cost of this game is not just a series of disappointments. The ultimate cost is the erosion and death of your true self. You slowly lose your independent identity. You no longer know who you are without the validation of others. Your happiness and sadness no longer spring from within, but like an emotional satellite, you just orbit other people, begging for a glimmer of light and warmth. You have surrendered control. You have sold your peace. So we are trapped in this prison, a prison whose walls are built from our hopes and whose bars are forged from our expectations. We've handed the key to someone else, and now we beg them for our freedom. But what if there is another way? What if the Stoics drew up the blueprint for this prison break? What if there is a completely different mental operating system, one not built on these toxic unwritten contracts? What is that system? And what is its first law?
That mental operating system, that blueprint for escape, is built on a single, infinitely powerful principle. It is the first and final law for taking back your soul. The Stoics called it the iron law of control, or the dichotomy of control. This law states that the entire universe is divided into two domains. The first domain is your inner citadel. This is your absolute kingdom. What lies inside this fortress? Your thoughts, your judgments, your choices, your values, and the actions that spring from them. In this realm, you are the absolute sovereign. No one and nothing can force you to think, judge, or choose in a certain way. The second domain is the external world. This includes everything outside of your inner citadel: the weather, the traffic, the economy, growing old, death, and most importantly, the thoughts, feelings, words, and actions of other people. In this realm, you have zero control, none. All human suffering, without exception, comes from one simple mistake: trying to control the second domain using the tools of the first. We try to change others with our willpower. We try to control the future with our anxiety. We try to rewrite the past with our anger. This is like trying to stop a hurricane by shouting at it. Futile, exhausting, and self-destructive. So, ask yourself this key question. In the last 24 hours, what percentage of your precious mental and emotional energy did you spend on things that were not in your kingdom? According to this new mental model, these behaviors are no longer seen as caring, but as a slow psychological suicide. worrying about what other people think of you. Their thoughts are in their kingdom, not yours. Trying to change the personality of your partner, your friend, or your family member. Their character is their choice, not yours. Ruminating on a mistake you made in the past. The past is in the external domain. The only thing you control is the lesson you draw from it today. Getting angry at another driver in traffic. Their driving is in their kingdom. Your peace is in yours. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who was once a slave, a man who had literal control over nothing, not even his own body, gives us this golden rule. Etch it into your mind. The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Now feel the danger. The consequence of ignoring this law isn't just disappointment. When you fail to make this distinction, you become a marionette. Your strings are pulled by every event, every person, every word that comes from the outside. A negative comment on social media can shatter you. A bit of indifference from someone you love can paralyze you for days. You are no longer living. You are being lived in. You are not choosing. You are being chosen for. This weakness, this inability to recognize the borders of your own soul makes you easy prey for the psychological games of others. But if this law is so simple and so powerful, why do we resist it so stubbornly? Why is our mind automatically drawn to the kingdom of others, trying to control it? Is it just a bad habit we learned in childhood? Or are there hidden psychological and social games at play designed to keep us in this state of weakness and dependency? What are the faces of these shadow players, and how do they steal our independence?
The answer is darker and more personal than you think. These hidden players often wear familiar faces: the face of a friend, a family member, a partner. And sometimes, if we dare to look deep enough, they wear our own face in the mirror. This resistance to the iron law of control is not just a bad habit. It is the result of a very common psychological game. A game played with an invisible and incredibly powerful tool of manipulation. This tool is called emotional debt. Emotional debt is the weaponized version of the unwritten contract. Its mechanism works like this. A person offers you an unsolicited favor, an unrequested sacrifice, or an exaggerated kindness, not out of pure generosity, but with the hidden goal of making you indebted to them. They are, in fact, investing in your guilt bank so they can make specific withdrawals in the future. Control, validation, or compliance. It is a direct assault on your inner citadel, an attempt to seize control of your choices. This debt is created by three primary archetypes, or shadow players. Know them because they exist in all of our lives. Archetype 1, the professional martyr. This person is a master of creating guilt through sacrifice. They often appear as a parent, a partner, or an old friend. Their verbal weapon is the phrase, "After everything I've done for you." Every act of kindness from them is an invoice, expecting to be paid. They don't give love, they give loans. Loans with very high interest rate of control and forced obligation. Archetype 2, the emotional scorekeeper. This is the friend or colleague with an invisible ledger in their mind. They've meticulously recorded every favor they've done, every secret they've kept, every coffee they've bought you. For them, a relationship is a transaction, not a connection. At the opportune moment, they will open their ledger and use their emotional credit to get something from you. They aren't helping you. They are saving you for a rainy day. Archetype 3, the anxious pleaser. This is the most dangerous player because this player is us. It's the part of us that, out of a fear of rejection or of being unlovable, voluntarily creates emotional debts with others. We do things we don't want to do, hoping that others will read our minds and give us the validation we crave. We enslave ourselves and then get angry at others for not setting us free. And here the bitter truth is revealed. These people, and that part of ourselves, are not connecting with the real you. They are interacting with the role you play for them. You are not a person to them. You are a resource for validation, a resource for service, a resource to soothe their own insecurity. As long as you remain in this game, you are not a free human being. But how do you quit? The Stoics propose a powerful move, a game-breaking move. This move is called breaking the contract. It is simple, but it requires courage. You refuse to play by the unwritten rules. When the professional martyr says, "After everything I've done for you," you calmly reply, "I am deeply grateful for everything you've done. Was it a gift, or did it come with an expectation I was unaware of?" This is shining a light into the shadows. This is exposing the game. But more importantly, you begin to practice value-driven action. You no longer do things to get a reaction from others. You do things because they align with your inner values. You are kind because being kind is part of your identity, not to receive kindness in return. In doing so, you release yourself from the outcome. But to execute this game-breaking move takes courage. It can feel cold, even cruel at first. Where does the strength come from to break these contracts and withstand the emotional storm that follows? What is the Stoics' philosophical weapon for becoming invincible in these games? What is the true power of this new solution?
What is the Stoics' philosophical weapon for becoming invincible? The modern world tells us that to be powerful, we must shout, react, argue, and prove ourselves. But the Stoic weapon is the exact opposite. It is a silent weapon, a quiet power. This weapon is wise indifference. The word indifference might sound cold, even negative, but in the Stoic worldview, this does not mean a lack of feeling. It is the height of emotional control and self-sovereignty. This indifference is not an emptiness, it is a complete and total presence in your inner citadel. It means you are so full of your own peace, your own value, and your own meaning that you need nothing and no one from the outside world to feel whole. It is the power of wanting nothing. Its mechanism of action is simple, yet brutal. When you genuinely need no external outcome, not their approval, not their praise, not their love, and not even their hate, you destroy every emotional hook they could possibly sink into your soul. They have no more levers to control you. An insult cannot wound you because you do not need their opinion for your self-worth. Indifference cannot disappoint you because you never counted on their attention for your happiness. You transform from a boat tossed on the waves of opinion into a mountain. The storms come and go, but the mountain remains. Let's imagine a real-world example. You're at a family gathering. A relative who is a master of psychological games and backhanded comments says in front of others, "So, are you still wasting your time with that peculiar job of yours?" The old you would immediately enter the game. You would either defend yourself angrily, fall silent with shame, or desperately try to explain yourself. In all three cases, you have lost. You have reacted, and you have handed them control. But the Stoic you remains silent,
Not a silence of weakness or suppressed anger, but a silence of calm observation. You look them in the eye, maybe offer a very faint, gentle smile, and without reacting, you calmly turn and start a conversation with the person next to you about something else. In that moment, you have killed the game. They were looking for a reaction, for a hook. You gave them none. All their power, which came from their ability to disturb your peace, evaporated in an instant. This is the power of silence. This is the power of non-need. Of course, we must be honest. Walking this path has a cost. When you stop playing the game, you might lose some friends. You might be labeled cold, arrogant, or unfeeling. They will accuse you of having changed. And they are right. You have changed. You are no longer an exploitable resource for their emotional needs. This is not a cost, it is a powerful filter. This path automatically removes everyone from your life who was there to control you, not to connect with the real you. The initial loneliness of this path is actually a purification period, making space for authentic people to enter your life. Repeat this mantra to yourself, especially in difficult moments. Carve it into your mind. I demand nothing, so I am never disappointed. I accept everything, so I am always free. This philosophy, this power, is beautiful and inspiring. But the million-dollar question remains. Tomorrow morning, when we face the same old challenges in the real world, how do we practice this non-need? What are the first practical steps to build this inner strength? How do we turn this theory into muscle?
Awareness without action is a beautiful form of self-deception. Knowing the path is not enough. We must walk it. So let's begin to walk. But first, an important distinction. This practice is not selfishness. It is self-construction. It is not apathy. It is purposeful training. We call this the Stoic gym, a training ground for the soul, where we intentionally lift weights that make our minds stronger and more resilient against disappointment. Here are 3 practical micro-actions you can start tonight. These will build your muscles of non-need. Exercise 1. The premeditation of adversity, premeditatio malorum. Every morning, for just 5 minutes, close your eyes and visualize the potential negative scenarios for your day. Not to create anxiety, but to vaccinate your soul. Imagine that important email goes unanswered. Your friend cancels your plans. Your boss criticizes your work. Then mentally rehearse your stoic response. Tell yourself, this would be unfortunate, but not a catastrophe. It is external to me. My peace is in my inner citadel, and this event cannot enter it. This practice dramatically reduces the shock of real-life disappointments. Exercise 2. The dichotomy journal. Every night before you sleep, open a notebook and draw 2 columns. Title the first column, Within My Control. Title the second, Outside My Control. In the first column, write down your own choices and actions. The patience I showed in traffic. The honesty I used to state my needs. The effort I put into my work. In the second column, write down everything else. The traffic itself. The reaction of others to my honesty. The final outcome of my project. This simple exercise will, over time, rewire your brain's focus away from the external world and back towards your own kingdom. Exercise 3. The power of the pause. Throughout your day, the moment you feel the first spark of a strong emotional reaction, anger, anxiety, jealousy, disappointment, pause for 1 second. Before you say a word or take an action, just take 1 deep breath and ask yourself this question. Does this event truly threaten my inner citadel? That tiny gap, that 1 second space between stimulus and response, is where all your freedom lies. And as you practice these, remember this golden rule. You owe no one an explanation for your peace. You do not need to justify your silence. You do not need to explain your boundaries. Your no is a complete sentence. Your inner citadel is your sovereign territory, and you are not accountable to the outside world for the laws of your own kingdom. As you walk this path, you will experience moments of loneliness and pain. The Stoics don't see this pain as a weakness. They see it as the fire of the forge. It is the sacred solitude where the impurities of dependency and need for approval are burned away, leaving the pure, strong steel of your character. This is not loneliness. It is coming home to your true self. And how do you know you're making progress? Here is your litmus test. Pay attention to how others react to your new boundaries. The measure of your progress is not who leaves your life, but how little their departure affects you. When someone leaves because you are no longer an endless resource for them, and you feel lightness instead of loss, you know you are on the right path. These exercises, this forge, will make you stronger. But the final question is this: what awaits us on the other side of this pain? On the other side of this constructive loneliness? When the impurities are burned away and the sword of your soul has been polished, who is this new person that is born? What freedom lies on the other side of disappointment?
On the other side of disappointment, on the other side of that constructive loneliness, what awaits you? The answer is simple. You. A version of yourself you never knew was possible, whole, independent, and invincible. The silence that was once born from a fear of being alone transforms into a silence born from a position of strength. The empty spaces in your life that were once filled with anxiety and expectation are now filled with a calm, complete, and self-sufficient presence. You stop living in the past and worrying about the future. You come to inhabit the now. And the ultimate payoff of this journey is not in gaining something. It is in letting go of everything. You trade the anxiety of what if for the deep Stoic calm of Ataraxia, the peace of whatever comes, I am ready. You replace the need for others' validation with the unshakable power of self-reliance. Your happiness is no longer an external event you wait for. It is an internal state you live in. And this is where the greatest possible transformation occurs. You shift from being a victim of your circumstances to being the architect of your responses. It is no longer the events that write your life story. It is your interpretation and your choice that builds a stepping stone for growth out of every single event. And finally, you arrive at the most beautiful and liberating paradox of this entire philosophy. The moment you want nothing from others, you become free to give them everything in the purest possible way. Your love is no longer a transaction. It is a gift. Your kindness is no longer a hook for control. It is a free choice. You no longer connect with others out of need and a fear of loneliness, but out of strength and inner completion. You become the person whose presence brings calm to a room, the one who remains steady in the midst of chaos, the one others look to for strength, not to be drained, but to be inspired. You become rare, self-sufficient, and unforgettable. You become a Stoic. This was the Stoics' brutal secret. Brutal because it asks you to let go of your most cherished illusion, control over the external world, but it is the key to your freedom. This journey doesn't end with this video. It begins with your decision. If you are ready to begin this journey, if you are ready to start building your inner fortress, Join a community of people who have made the same choice. Go to the comment section and write, "I am building my fortress." In doing so, you're not making a commitment to us, but to yourself, to the future version of yourself who will never again auction off their peace. Your peace is your choice. Be free.